Hello and welcome to our game with myself, Michael Verney. Delighted to be joined by Waldron once again, and as always, I should say, brought by our great sponsors, Lotto Land. Naoise, how are you getting on? How's the pulse after last weekend, particularly after last Sunday?
Great, brilliant. It was high. It was at a fairly high pulse rate. All right, Sunday evening after a good weekend, and just like. I don't know, like imagine like talking to Lotto Land. Imagine the odds you would have got. I was only talking to a friend of mine and watching the match. What kind of odds would you have gotten on 2 draws in the first 2 games there in Munster? Leinster maybe not as exciting. Well, actually, the Dublin Offaly game was a good old gripping old contest. All right, I suppose that the marquee game wasn't as exciting, but great weekend. Deadly the way it started out. Mix of weather, mix of scores, class, physicality, speed, and all. It was brilliant. It was perfect opening weekend, I thought.
10-1 for the 10-1 for a draw in each game. I know the great Pat Heffernan who used to play with Limerick he had a betting slip up anyway, a €2.50 double on 2 draws, and one of my buddies always does it. He always does it, and he didn't do it last weekend. So you're better off cutting your ties there and then. No point in doing it anymore, because you will not get any better than last Sunday. And it's funny you mentioned about Dublin Offaly. Like, I think I was in Parnell the other night. Like, we got 3 belters in a row. Not that many people saw maybe the Offaly Dublin game, but that was right down to the wire. Really, really tight game. Well, we get stuck into Sunday quickly, Naoise, and then we look ahead to this weekend. Cork and Clare, where do you start? Like, Cork 12 up at half time, playing absolutely champagne stuff. Sensational comeback from Clare. And now Cork, even going into this weekend, they're missing Shane Barrett. Rob Downey's a bit of a doubt, but like, what a game in Ennis the other day. And like an absolute, like, even when Clare were 9 down, like the noise after Aidan McCarthy's goal, like they still believed, absolutely no doubt about it, and they were right to still believe.
Yeah, like loads of mad things in that game, like some unbelievable skill. How many one-handed scores and one-handed finishes?
Have you ever seen the like of it? One-handed, it's crazy.
Like between goals and points, like no, like it's just unbelievable. Like the flick downs, the stuff in the air, like Shanahan and Duggan in the air, Connolly's points, like just they were class. Like I've liked Connolly, loved him ever since I saw him coming on first, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. Controversy, I suppose, red card, this and that and the other, but the way Clare adapted then to having the extra man was ideal. Like, obviously you run this kind of stuff, you practice this kind of stuff. Here's what happens if we get a man up. If they get a fella sent off, this is who's free. Everybody else is marking, everybody else can press, everybody else can push, and then the perfect probably candidate then Conlon to sit back and just read the game, pick up the breaks. Like, just it was such an exciting game. It was crazy. And like you said, that was one thing I actually noticed when McCarthy scored that goal. The roar to be so far behind and like with such little time left and kind of going, jeez, that's mad. And then sure they were ahead.
Yeah.
And Cork were probably in the end lucky to get a draw. Like, so and just one thing I was going to ask you about, because I just thought it was fairly obvious to me. Like Brian Hayes' goal where he bats it in, right? Like Brian Hayes was class as well, like in just his class. But that goal there, like surely as a cornerback, you have to be doing better than that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was. Adam, listen, it was gas to watch the first half and the comparison. I remember Adam Hogan went for a ball with Connolly about 5 yards from the sideline. It was in 32nd minute, and he just flicked the ball out over the sideline. And like, to me, like there was desperation stuff from a Clare point of view everywhere. They weren't comfortable on the ball. There was, the second they were near the ball, there was so many bodies around them. It was so frenetic. And then that's the mad thing, and I always say it about Limerick as well. To be able to turn around in the second half and be completely different and be comfortable on the ball and be snarling and be the ones that were bringing the intensity was absolutely crazy. Yeah, but Hayes' goal, like, you can't be letting a lad in the narrow side like that. Like, he literally has a yard and a half to work with, and he gets in. There's no way he should be getting in. And I forget who it was from, but Quilligan pulled off a save where the ball bounced into the ground. I forget who it was from, but that was an outrageous save when, if that had gone in, they were completely dead and buried. And most people probably thought they were dead and buried anyway. But I just love the physicality in the second half. Clare probably know that the only way that they'll go toe-to-toe with Cork is if they're able to get in their faces like that. It was very like the All-Ireland final last year. First 20 minutes, Cork were able to play free-flowing. Then all of a sudden, they hit a wide or two, and Clare were able to get in on top of them a bit more. Even the puck-out situation, Cork were allowed to get their puck-outs away pretty quickly, and it really, really played to their strengths. But I can't remember a game turning like that. Like remember Tip and Limerick in the 2021 Munster final, and they were down by, I think it was 2-16 to 12 at half time. But you could see the wheels were turning a small bit. The wheels were not turning at all coming up to half time. Clare were looking for half time, and Cork were not. And it was a phenomenal comeback. The extra man was obviously a big boost for them. But as you say, they played it so well, and to be a point up, I don't think they would have felt they left anything behind, because at halftime they would have taken their hand off for a point realistically.
Oh, 100%. And like, even like, there was a few things I loved about the way they came back or whatever, but like that Tony Kelly's point where, like, from the sideline, they have a sideline way back in their own half, like, and I often wonder, Ballygunner kind of used to do this for a while as well, but like, I always say it when you're trying to coach with a team, is like, go back to the fella who took the sideline. Yeah. If it's passed, go back, because everybody gets sucked to the sliotar, and then the person that hit the sideline is usually free. So like, if you can, and like they did, like, and then when Tony Kelly gets going like that, like, you're just near impossible to stop him. But Duggan,
just Nisha, speaking of that really quickly, Adam English will get a rap on his knuckles, because Tipperary's second goal came from him trying to hit a line. I'm not sure where he was actually trying to hit it, but that's not something Limerick have never tried to go over the first man since Darragh O'Donovan's line ball at the end of the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final. They've never tried to go over the man standing in front. They've always gone around him with a low ball, and as you say, back to the taker. Barry Wheelan did it for Burr for years. I don't know how nobody cottoned on. He'd look for Simon or whoever, and they'd just give it back, because as you say, you have to be 13 yards away from the taker. So he should be still free when the ball is received by the first man. But yeah, you were going to say there about the second half as well.
So yeah, so it's like, so not only the kind of cuteness and class and guile, but then the whole thing of, we're putting our biggest man up in front, a year square, and we're going to absolutely lorry it down on top of him. And like, it came back, like, while I was watching it, I was going, I actually can't believe this is happening again. So like, again, like, when I was in college in Cork, and something we always thought, like Kilkenny lads and Tip lads, we always thought was, if you're going to beat the Cork lads, it's put it in high, like, get it in high in them like that. They always try and kind of prefer to go up with their hurl in the air or whatever. And like, just the little flick downs for the goals, like genius stuff, like where Duggan is using his left hand, so he's, let's say, his catching hand to shield the defender or hold him down, and then just turn his hurl, putting it into the path for the goal. And then again, what I love, and Danny Sutcliffe does this really well, that whole thing of, at the last second, Duggan puts the hurl into his catching hand, then catches it with his right hand, because you're trying to stop his catching hand from getting to the sliotar, but then he changes it over his last second. It's just all this cuteness around the square, and it causes havoc then. And like, it was the second half was just bananas when you're watching it. You're kind of going like, no, Cork would just do enough to stay ahead. And the really weird thing about it was, I saw as well, like, I know, and you were even saying it as well, people are saying that, like, we're down on Cork and this and that and blah blah blah, or whatever. How many times have we said they have probably 10 forwards that could start on the team, right? Oh, yeah. And like, going on about Connolly and Hayes, and like, I love that 3-man full forward line of Horgan, Connolly and Hayes, because Horgan makes it stick and is so intelligent, and then Connolly is just class, and then Brian Hayes is just, I am going for goal. But what was it, I think I heard Liam Sheedy saying there, they brought on 4 forwards into the subs, and they were on the field for 18 minutes and only got 1 point. Like, that's where the game was left behind. That right there is where the game was left behind. After we had been praising them so much for what they've been doing, how strong the panel is, that was where, like, because when they got into that last 10 minutes, it was literally just get a point, and they couldn't.
What surprised me about that is, I've no issue with a forward being taken off if he's not up to it, but Hoggy was going really well, and Connolly was maybe feeding off scraps in the second half, but he got that deadly point over his head, remember? Like, I don't know, I just thought they had too much inexperience on the pitch at the end. You still need that balance. That's why I was surprised. And I can understand from Pat Ryan's point of view, he's probably thinking, we're down to 14, we probably need legs everywhere. But there's a mixture of legs and head as well. I still think Hoggy, if he'd gotten the ball, like, how many times has he fouled the second half? He's fouled 3 or 4 times. Well, overall in the game. So I do think that was a mistake, taking him off. Maybe him or Connolly could have come off. Connolly would have been first off from the two of them, in my view, but Horgan was the first off, and I was surprised at that, because it was just, to me, it was too much inexperience on the pitch. But it's funny you're saying there, you've been involved with teams and I've been involved with teams playing and even doing a bit of coaching, where you're just thinking, oh, if we can just get one more on the board, this chance we have, if we can just get it on the board. And when you don't get it on the board, all of a sudden sucks that bit of oxygen, they get scored the other end, the crowd are going absolutely, bonkers or whatever. It was mad. Couple of things quick, Naoise. The Shane Barrett sending off, what did you reckon?
Don't know. Even when I was looking at the replays again, I was kind of going, tangled up, and I'd love to know what the ruling was. Like, was it oh, he was interfering with his helmet, or did he do a kind of a quick little jab? But like, from the replays they were showing, I genuinely, this sounds like such a cop out, like I genuinely couldn't, yeah. Couldn't exactly tell what he did, like compared to like a lot of the red cards and non-red cards we had seen in the league. It was a funny one. Like, what do you think of it? What do you?
Yeah, no, I think when you put your hand up that high and you turn or lead at all, I think you're under pressure, and it looked like he let. Not with his elbow necessarily, probably the middle of his forearm, I'd say, and he turned in. A lot of people are saying David really went down like a sack of spuds. I didn't really see it that way myself. There was contact made to his head. It wasn't minimal. Some people are saying that he dived or whatever. I didn't think that wasn't my first instance. My first thought was, you're under pressure here. You have made contact with his head, regardless. And look at the league and the amount of people it happened to. So,
yeah.
And you'd feel, and like I kind of said last week and even in previous weeks, like, it is going to be a roller coaster ride for Cork. Now they're down Barrett for Tip the next day. Downey suffered a knee injury. Talk of him still being fit. It was more of a bang than any type of problem to it or anything like that. And it's gas. I don't know if you've ever been in this position. He picked it up around 25th minute or something like that, and he was able to manage it because he was on the pitch. But Pat Ryan said he went into the dressing room at half time, and the circulation stops. You're sitting down. You nearly actually need a spinning bike to keep it moving for 15 minutes. But the adrenaline stops, the blood flow stops a bit. He went back out, and it kind of just seized up. Yeah. And it's a funny one. He said if he picked it up in the second half, that he would have been able to play on no problem, because he wouldn't have had a chance to stop or anything like that. But they left him on because there was no fear of the injury really getting any worse, because it was just a bang. But there's already kind of questions they're going to have to answer. And just even focusing on Cork and Tip now this weekend, the psyche has changed a bit from the league final now, almost, hasn't it? Like, Tip are in a good position coming in this weekend, whereas maybe Cork have a few question marks. Probably not in their own heads, but maybe from the outside world.
Yeah, because, like, in a way, you'd be kind of going, how did you, like, I know they didn't lose, so you're still in the championship and all that. And then, obviously, it helps that the other game was a draw as well. But you'd be kind of going, surely, in their heads, they're going, how did we let that slip? How could you be that far ahead with that little time to go? Even with 14 players, there is no way that should have happened. Like, even if we had said, like, hey, look, lads, we're going to leave one lad in the full forward line, and everybody else is flooding back to stop Shanahan and stop Duggan and stop, Galvin and whoever, like, right? But yeah, and then Tip compared to the league final, like, it's night and day. Like, it's absolute night and day. Like, the way they played against Limerick is, you're talking 150% better than the way they played against Cork in the league final. Like, it's incomparable. Like, even bringing on, and there was doubts and questions, about their speed and all this, and then even someone like Noel McGrath. But then, like, Noel McGrath came in, and it was like every time he got the ball, he was like, it was, he either laid on a pass that ended up in a score, or as he was given the pass for a score. Like,
that's the perfect role for him when you're in a game and you can bring him in that scenario. Even the score he got down the touchline was beautiful as well. But it was like that's probably the perfect cameo, or the perfect type of role you want him playing, bringing him in when they're still in a game and able to pull strings, and people are tired, and there's a bit of maybe looseness and gaps that there wouldn't normally be at the start of a game.
Exactly. When the pace lowers and it drops, and he's clever enough to find the holes. So, like, that's the thing, is like, you need somebody to man mark him and to sit on him and grab him, like, because you can't let her. It's similar to Tony Kelly now as well, right? So, like, Tony Kelly isn't the best ball winner in the world. Like, you're not going to be really going long and high to him, but he's unreal at reading the breaks and reading the play. And so that's why you have to completely forget about your own game when you're on somebody like Noel McGrath or Tony Kelly, because they read the game way too well, where you have to just be like touching them all the time, and anytime they go to run and make even a bit of momentum, you either step across them or nudge them or do something, so you knock them off stride so that they can't get in and around the break, they can't get onto the sliotar, and even if they are a little bit faster, you can stay with them because you've dunted them in some way. Like just Cian Lynch is similar as well, but here now on the Tip and Limerick game as well. We've moved on from Cork and Clare.
Belt away.
The Limerick and Tip game, I was watching it, like, obviously I just thought, like, right, Dave McIntyre and Tommy Walsh really, really underreacted, maybe just compared to what I would have been reacting to some of the pickups like that Cian Lynch and English did, like in rainy conditions like that, tip bodies flying all around you and you just popping it into your hand, or flicking and catching it on the bounce with a backhand, like kind of under between two lads, coming up and popping it out. The handling there at some stage, just
on that nature as well. It's an amazing how, like 20 years ago, if a lad goes for that chop pickup, barring your John Troy, like, hey, get out of here, you now. Don't even think about trying. It's amazing. The chop pickup is just, it's common, so common now. Belting the ball off the ground to get the extra catch is so common, and they make it look so easy because it's not that easy. Like, even like when Kyle Hayes does it at full pace, that is crazily hard to do. Now, if the surface is good, it obviously makes it a bit easier. But it is amazing how easy some lads are making these difficult skills. They're difficult by yourself, let alone in championship hurling.
Running at full pelt. The thing with Hayes and Tony Kelly and whoever else, when they slap it off the ground and get it back at full speed, is like they don't break stride. Yeah. They're like, how often and how, they're obviously practicing it all the time, because you can't just pull that off, like that. It doesn't even change. Like the sliotar, when it bounces, it doesn't change to the right, change to the left, nothing. And they're just back on and they're still just going full speed. But that game, the Limerick and Tip game was a crazy one as well, where at half time, like, I was even kind of thinking, right, okay, this is kind of similar to the last few years with Tip and Limerick, where Tip are right in at half time. And again, like even Richie Hogan was kind of saying it, where he was like, can they keep it up now? And like, that's been the question all the time. Can they keep it up? And they did. But that game was as dramatic a game as you're going to see, right? Because, just I know a lot of the people would be giving out about the throws and this and that, and yet Limerick got called for a few kind of foul hand passes, which is great. If there are foul hand passes, you have to call and all that. But then there was a couple of Tip weren't called on. We were kind of going, oh, that could have been one. That could have been one. Second
goal, Naoise. Connor Bowes looks like a throw. There's no point in saying any different. It does. Yeah. I have an issue now, I have to say, with the overhead one. Like, so you only do that when you're completely surrounded and you have to go. But referees have gotten a thing now where the second you try to do it, even if you do make clear contact, they blow. That really frustrates me. And I'm not necessarily talking about last Sunday, but I'm just talking about referees in general, blowing that because you're doing that. The only reason you're doing it is probably because one of your arms has been held or there's a load of bodies around you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the thing, is like, so in hurling, it doesn't say in the rule book that it has to be an underhand motion at all. It just has to be clear contact. So like, I've played in matches here in Dublin where some refs call it as a foul hand pass and some refs don't. And a lot of people playing against you, like, and whatever, don't realise that's not a foul. You can hand pass it overhead. It just has to be a clear strike. To be guilty, the hand pass needs to be removed. It's getting embarrassing. No, it doesn't need to be removed. How can you remove the hand pass? Just call the fouls, call the fouls that are fouls. Like Will O'Donoghue's one, right, where he does the kind of this, right? That one. That was a foul hand pass, but I actually thought he was unlucky not to get a free himself, a free out. And the tackle on Diarmaid Burns there, where he was dispossessed, and then Darren McCarthy ends up with it and passes it, and Morris scores a point. Like, sure, that was as blatant a foul as you'd see. Like, this is what I'm saying. It was like, it was so dramatic and a bit of controversy. Some great goals, like Glan's pass.
Come on. Like, I had to look at it a good few times before. Like, I was sure, I was like, he's been blocked down here. Greedy over the shoulder shot. And then I'm like, oh, hold on a second now. He hasn't been blocked down. Like, the vision of that. And then English's finish is so cool. Like, for a lad, was that his nearly his championship debut, or like
first championship goal anyway?
Yeah, starting like a big championship game, and he's so cool, like, and he's like the little wagging the finger as well. Yeah, no, it was brilliant. Just back to the hand pass for a second now. I think we're losing the run of ourselves here. People saying that it's hurling's scourge and stuff like that. I don't see that. Football had to, to make a lot, like, sweeping changes to football, because there was a lot of problems with the game. There are very few problems in hurling from the way I can see it, but the onus is on the player to make sure that there's a clear strike of motion. If it's not a clear strike of motion, you call it like Thomas Walsh called it the other day. That's what he thought. More referees need to do that. Lads will stop doing it. Lads will put more onus on themselves. And the funny thing is, I was chatting on the boys from home about this yesterday. It's actually not that they don't have time to do the motion at times. A lot of it is just, I'll nearly risk it to save time and make sure that everything stays in motion a lot quicker. And whether that's been coached or not, I'd say it could be, to be honest with you. It's nearly worth the risk. But the onus is on the player. Make sure there's a strike of motion. If there's not, and it's like, oh, he might have got contact or he might not, the onus is on you to make sure there's contact. If there's not, and it's not clear for everybody to see, blow it. But to me, it's not this big, massive problem. I don't buy that. I think hurling's in a really, really healthy state. And I'm not going to go and start changing rules radically or start banning the hand pass and ruin the game as a result, because there's no need.
Just there's balloons going up around you.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it must be. It's not my birthday, but I don't know what happened there. But
it's the rules committee. It's the rules committee.
Yes,
I agree with you. But no, yeah, it's the same as over carrying, like the steps thing, right? And even Liam Sheedy was analysing John McGrath's goal, and he says he took the 5 steps and he blasted it to goal or whatever. And he was, but Liam, you're only allowed to take 4. Like, yeah. So it's the consistency, right? Like, say, like the other day there, right? Thomas Walsh calls it, right? Keep calling it. And keep calling it on both sides. Like, as in, if it is you just need to keep it, and from the start of the match to the end of the match. Same as the over carrying thing. If just stop letting lads away with 8, 9 steps. Like, it's just either coming out or running in on goal. Or like another one, sometimes where somebody gets say a goalie runs out of the goal and the cornerback pucks it across to him. And just because there's no one around him and he trots around like 6, 7, 8 yards, he starts from inside the 14 and ends up outside the 21, and he's just kind of watching, and it's like, he's over carrying, call it. That kind of stuff. But the hand pass thing, 100%. Why would we get rid of the skill out of the game? Why would you get rid of the skill? It's up to the referee, it's up to the players to do it right, first of all, and then for the referees to call the freeze when it's a foul. Same as anything. Someone pulls a jersey, that's a foul. Someone trips a lad, that's a foul. Someone chops, it's a foul. When there's a foul, you call the free. And I don't care if it happens 10 times, everyone goes, he ruined the game. No, he didn't. He's refereeing the game the way the game is supposed to be played and the way it's supposed to be reffed. The lads need to stop throwing the ball or fouling possession. See, it comes, I often think as well, it comes down to, when you're just on your point about the coaching, it probably comes down to the language and then the practice as well, like in coaching, where you're saying, we need a quick release. And then that's literally what a lot of lads are doing. They're just like a Spider-Man nearly, where it's just like that. And the sliotar leaves their hand, where you're kind of going, no, hand pass it properly, because I mean, like, you can't take it out of the game. It'll slow down hurling so much if you get rid of hand passing, because like people get away with so much pulling and dragging as it is now, and if you can only strike it or kick it, you'll never get the sliotar out of someone's hand. Like, so no, I don't agree at all. You just need to keep the hand pass in, but just the referees need to be way stricter on it.
Naoise, I have a dog going absolutely mental in the background here. So how do you see Cork and Tipperary going?
I couldn't imagine it'll be anything like the league final anyway. Absolutely nothing. Tip, you would imagine, and from a Tip point of view, you'd be hoping and imagining they're buzzing after last weekend and that they have a point to prove, and they probably know, right? If they have last Sunday in them, they probably know themselves that the league final was one that they seemed, in hindsight, they seemed happy enough to kind of let go and like kind of slide by and not let Cork have it, but like just let it slide by and let's see what happens. We need to get ready for championship. And like, this is the things, like, they were obviously prepped physically, mentally, and organisationally. And I know a lot of people probably think that Limerick should have had players in different positions, like Kyle Hayes, centre forward, and this kind of stuff, which is fine. But Tip dealt with it. And Darren McCarthy, funny enough, missed a couple of frees that he never usually misses. So they probably might feel in some points that maybe they left it behind them as well. But look, the huge one, the big battle will be the Tip full back line against the Cork full forward line. Which one of them picks up which one, and then can Cork create enough space and bring out Ronan Maher far enough away so where he can't sweep and cover in front of them lads? Can they pull him out, or can they use even Fitzgibbon, and then so that Ronan Maher has to come out to him. So it's real intriguing, the matchups and the battles there. But like the three lads inside against the tip full back line is, I would imagine, the winning and losing of the game, because athletically, you would kind of think, and speed-wise, if it does get too open, you would think that Cork should be running over the top of them and speeding all around them. But if Tip plays physically as they did against Limerick, and don't let them, like I was saying about the other lads, don't let them build momentum, get bodies on them, close them down, swallow them up, I'd give Tip every chance.
What are the matchups, Naoise, you're looking at most? This dog is still going mad. I'm going to have to let a few roars here. Mute myself and let a few roars. What are the matchups you're looking ahead to most? Like some of the matchups last Sunday across the two games, like you're just like salivating nearly watching it. Like, do you know what I mean? And even like Duggan and Prunty this Sunday more than likely as well in that game. But in the Tip Cork game, what ones are you looking forward to in particular?
Basically, the whole Tip full back line against the whole Cork full forward line, and who goes with who. Like you played cornerback, so you'd be kind of think like if you were going up against the Cork team and you were playing, the Cork full forward line, you were saying to the Offaly full back and the other cornerback, who are you saying? I'll take him, you take him, and you take the other, or would one person stand up and say, no, I'm taking Connolly, and then so it's like, who, like would Mikey Breen be on Hayes? You'd imagine, so that's probably what you'd be doing. You'd be thinking. And then another one then, like I was kind of referring to earlier too, Ronan Maher on Fitzgibbon. Like, what did they do there? Like, is Ronan Maher going to, you'd imagine Ronan Maher isn't going to be running around following Fitzgibbon, just the speed. And Fitzgibbon then as well isn't going to stand centre forward and just like let the game and let Ronan Maher stand at 6 and just be like, oh, this and that and the other. Sorry, I just got a tweet notification there from Staple coming across saying from Shane Stapleton, that we conveniently forgot that Noel McGrath was called for a throw on the lead up for a Tipperary goal. But look, that's neither here nor there for this stage. But look, but all I was saying was that it is consistent and it's continuously called all throughout it. But a huge one, and I think it is pivotal apart from the Tip full back line against the Cork full forward line, is Ronan Maher on Fitzgibbon. I just like, what does he do? What do Tip do? Do they draw a man back? Do they play with two lads inside?
Have to draw a man back. They have to, because they can't afford for, like Condon was kind of chasing shadows the other day for long stages. Then all of a sudden, Clare were able to tighten everything up. Someone was obviously dropping back the middle of the field to pick up Fitzgibbon for a while there. Maybe it was Ryan Taylor or someone, but Condon was able to sit back in a bit as well. You have to probably send a midfielder after him, because the centre back can't. It's just too exposed. Like even the other day, I loved how deep, whatever about playing three inside, I loved how deep the three were. Like they were literally in on the end line, and there's just so much space. Like you've played inside as well, and you see lads, some lads standing on the 21 or coming, and they're, by the time they're receiving the ball, they're 30 yards out. Like Horgan was starting his run from the end line and receiving it at the 13. Like that's so hard to defend. Yeah, and the older you get as well, the kind of cuter you have to get with this. But I remember years ago, like one of the older lads said to me, he goes, you should have the space in front of you and outside you. And it was like one of these things, because like you're kind of watching the game and you're following out, and then you want to get on the ball, but then next thing the ball is pucked in and there's 25, 30 yards behind you, and it's like, oh, that's just going to dribble over the end line. So it's like, and Glan is brilliant at this as well, like, and always has been. It's that thing of you start in, and sometimes like he'd be like walking along the goal line, like, and the defenders going with him or whatever, but like that the space is out in front, and so in front and out to the sides, like the Cork lads were set up, because it creates automatically 50 to 55 yards of space, and then if the half forward line pulls out again into midfield, you're talking 60, 70, 80 yards. And then it's a case of like, it doesn't matter how good Ronan Maher is at reading the game. If you can break out the half back line and go diagonally with it, he's going to be twisting over his head, looking for the ball, and then the runner's coming through. Because if Tip do what you're saying, as in drawing a midfielder back so that Ronan Maher can sit there free, like Cork, I know they know, and they should be looking to use it then and utilise this, the speed and the athleticism that they have, with like Ethan Toomey, and Downey as well, that you just say, right lads, if they do that and we have a man free,
You sit back, Downey, and we need to go, boom, run it, run it, run it.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, there's a lot of fascinating battles there. When push comes to shove, I still see a Cork win. Probably by 4 or 5, maybe. I'd expect it to be a lot tighter than the league final. Expect it to be a lot more physical than the league final. Even Tip the other day. Like, I love like boys getting in the faces of lads at the start of the game and stuff like that, and laying down a bit of a marker. And I expect them to do something similar at the weekend. But as the great Stapo would say, in the heel of the hunt, I think Cork will win by 4 or 5. What do you reckon?
I'd have thought that too, yeah, but it's just like that comment is very, very valid. Like, it's like, how good can a team rebound after playing Limerick? And like Tip, like, just when you look at how physical they were, how much energy that. So this thing is like, maybe they could keep it going for 40, 45 minutes. It's the last, and this is again like such a cliche thing to say, but like, it's that last 15 or 20 minutes. Will they be able to stay with Cork physically and athletically? Because that's where, if it's close or Cork are ahead, is where they could open that gap. And again, if you're Pat Ryan and you're talking to the lads that are forwards that came on, you know, you'd be kind of saying, lads, we're playing at home now. This is your second chance. You're going to be coming on. You're going to be coming on in 15, 20 minutes. You need to play way better. And again, as a sub that will be coming on, and you know yourself, you're kind of going, geez, thank God we got a draw. I have another crack at this, because a win against Tip would be huge now for Cork. Like, it'd be a huge result for Cork to win.
Yeah, we just fly through a couple of quick comments. Loads of comments in. Tip fan man says we're back to being on the way back. Liam Cattle's message after was that under no circumstances should we be saying Tip are back, or does this result mean Tip are back? I love stuff like that.
Gives them the we drew with Limerick trophy.
Yeah, exactly. Mike has a comment in here. Some slashing in Ennis Sunday. Verney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how crispy were your jocks? Could have cracked them like Papadoms, I'd say. I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it that much, but I did enjoy it, to be fair. Let me just see here. Patrick Power just says, Tip, unfortunately, I don't think have much more in them than what they showed Sunday. Don't mean to be a downer, but just can't see them playing better than that. It's going to be, as you say there, it's going to be difficult. But at least Cork are coming in on you would say, a bit of a downer as well, having been up by 12. Cork would have been expecting to have 2 on the board, but they will have a massive crowd behind them as well on Sunday, which I don't think you can underestimate that. And they should, you know, I think more tickets actually became available yesterday on the back of some Tipperary supporters not availing of their tickets. That's my understanding of it from reading on the Echo. So there will be a massive Cork crowd there, and they will feed off that energy, no doubt.
And you'd be thinking from the Cork point of view that they'd have a different energy going into this, where you kind of have a point to prove. Like, there's probably a lot of them thinking we have a point to prove here, and we're at home again. It's Tip and Cork, obviously Munster Championship, isn't that? But it's in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And we have a bit of a point to prove here now that we're not some kind of soft touch here. We let that one slip, and now you need to prove that, you know, that was just a fluke. That cannot happen again, especially against a team we just beat in the league final a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, just a couple other comments in here. Discipline is a huge part of the game now. Cork had a man red carded last year too against Clare. Am I right in saying that a man red carded against Waterford the first day as well? I think they had last year. That'll be disappointing, and you could see how disappointed Shane Barrett was, because he knew he was, not saying he was goaded into a reaction, but maybe they were looking for and that happens in games. And he knew straight away that he'd made a mistake. And even I was chatting to Milan there the other day, and he just said the same thing when he hit Brian Murphy that time. He said, "Oh, you know straight away," and it's just, you know, and it didn't affect Waterford or Milan that day, but it probably caught them. That was probably their year to win All-Ireland or be in an All-Ireland final, flying it. And he just said he knew after straight away as well. A couple of other comments in here. Mike Doyle says, Clare sucked in Cork into their tactics. Cork fell hook, line and sinker for it. It stopped Cork from hurling, suited Clare. Well, listen, the thing about it is, right, I'd always say this because of a cornerback. You're the opposite because you're corner forward. It's not my duty to let you, you know, hurl and express yourself and let you get 3 or 4 points. Remember Lee Keegan talking about this when he was marking Connolly? He's like, I don't care whether people come to see Connolly tread these 60-yard passes. That's like, I'm not there to watch nice football. I'm there to try and win the game. And Yeah, do you know what I mean? And Clare were there to win in the second half, and they were there to win by whatever means necessary. Comment just came in here from Pow Pow again. He said, should Waterford show up on Sunday, lads? The disrespect shown by the pundits towards us is criminal, pure snobbery. I definitely don't think that. And I think me and you have both talked them up to a point, but it's only natural when they weren't playing the first weekend that they weren't really being discussed. And now is the time to discuss Waterford. And the Waterford psyche, maybe not from a player's point of view, from a supporter's point of view, would have changed drastically from half time when you're thinking half time last Sunday when you're thinking, geez, we have Clare coming to town next week and they've been beaten up a stick here by Cork. You know, you can smell it. Can you smell the sense of opportunity? And then all of a sudden now you have a Clare team coming to town with, I'd say, a heap of momentum, and I don't think there's any energy deficit whatsoever. I think, if anything, they feed energy off their second half performance the last day, and I don't think they'll be tired. I don't think there'll be any physical residue or anything like that coming in. But from a Waterford point of view, they've sat back, looked at it all. Big thing is to get Ozzy back. Kevin Matney will be back. Prunty will be back. I think Mikey Kiley will be back. Talk of him going back up to the forwards as well, which will be interesting. And particularly, you know, if they went with potentially the twin towers inside of Ozzy and Michael Kiley, maybe I'm a bit fanciful here. Maybe that's the 2025 tactic, because I saw what Ushton Kelly did right for Offaly and Brian Duggan at times as well. That seems to be the tactic. But where do you think Waterford are at coming into this game? But it is huge that they get something out of Sunday. You'd imagine they have to get something out of Sunday.
Oh, 100% to do, 100%, because, and as well as that, like all the teams getting a draw in a funny way, like really suits Waterford as well, where you're kind of like, they're not chasing anything here now. Like, it's like, even if they lost, it's like, right, okay, but that if they win, they're now on 2 with a game in hand, kind of thing. That, like, you know, the other teams have played 2 games, or but Limerick will be on a break as well, you know. But like that, they're ahead. But it's hard to know, because remember at the end of the league, I kept saying as well, it was like, Waterford definitely have another gear or 2 in them to go up. Like, not just the lads returning, even the lads that were playing at the time, you could kind of tell that, like, there's still a good bit more in Déise. Stephen Bennett's going with Shane Bennett. There's still a good bit more in Shane Bennett. Like Ty DeBourke just coming back and getting through 2 games, but there's still more. And then Barron, like, really looking forward to see how he'll go in the championship now as well. And just, I don't know, potentially, I've said this loads of times now at this stage. Like, I think Waterford are one of the best teams. Like, potentially on paper with a full squad, they are, but the game isn't played on potential. It's not played on paper. They need to now prove it, because for the last few years they've been just what did Don Logue say that time? Also rans. They just happened to be in the championship. Like, and remember there was one year there a few years ago, everyone was complaining Carlow got relegated, when actually Waterford's results were far worse than Carlow.
19,
like,
yeah.
Like, it's like, and their record in the round robin is absolutely awful. So they do have a point to prove as well, and they've the hurlers to do it. But they need to get the grip, you know, the grip between the teeth now, and just really go at Clare. Because I just kind of think, also, obviously, look, they're all Ireland champions, but I think Clare feel like they can bully Waterford physically, that they're just bigger all around the field. And obviously the bit of confidence, and then obviously the momentum from last weekend, now bringing it into this weekend.
There's only one winner, Naoise, if it's really physical.
Yeah.
Like, Clare will win this game if it's really, and they're allowed to dictate the terms physically. They will win this game, and they'll win it by 6 or 7. That's the challenge to Waterford, isn't it?
Exactly. This is the thing. So it's like, it's the great, you know, unknown, because we haven't seen Waterford just in the league, where they were good in the league. They were very good at times, but just when you see a team playing in championship, you're kind of going, oh, now they've had the advantage of the extra week break. They've been able to see the teams. They can analyze the games. What do we do to match up with this? What do we do to match up with that? How can we expose this? How can we expose that? Again, Mikey Kiley come back. If they're going to go with Austin Gleeson, Mikey Kiley, and then who's inside beside him? I don't see
Ozzy starting. I'd be surprised if he starts. He doesn't have enough game time under his belt. Like, no, realistically, he hasn't played inter-county hurling really outside of that Westmeath cameo since 2023. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you're going to play him, like, it's probably a similar kind of thing as like what Tip did with Nolan McGrath. Like, when the game kind of dies down a bit, and there's holes there to be opened, and like a smart player to come in and scores to be got, that Austin Gleeson comes in and like he can win a ball, you can target him and all that. Lads will feed off him because the attention will be drawn to him. So then you have to be cute enough to get in around them and get on the breaks or even get a pass off them or whatever. So it'll be interesting now as well. And then like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match. We were even talking about this, I think, even before the end of, or just at the end of the league. We were like that this game, the Waterford and Clare game, because like this should be a cracker. This should be a cracker of a game. I'm dying to see what Waterford like in Championship.
Yeah, I'm down there, and I just hope I see what I saw against Cork last year from Waterford. It was a real Championship display. It was like they'd clearly upped the 2 gears from anything we saw in the league. And I'm the same as you. I think that potential is there to explode. Whether they can do it over 4 games, I'm not totally convinced. But when you go through their forwards, like, you know, let's say Byrne, Déise, Stephen Bennett, Ozzy potentially, Michael Kiley. Do you know what I mean? They have a lot of different weapons and tools at the back. The Burke is back fit. Prunty's going to be back fit. His battle with Duggan will be like 2 wrestlers, basically, just 2 grapplers. I know you were watching a bit of WrestleMania at the weekend, the more than I was, but this will be old school, you know, collar and elbow tie up, and there'll just be 2 lads wrestling, I'd say, for the day. Now, Duggan, just something I want to say on Duggan as well. Duggan played basically half an hour of hurling this year. That's all he had played coming into last week, and he delivered that performance that he did. It was absolutely sensational. Even in the first half, he was such a threat. Could have had a goal in the first half. Probably hit it a bit high for Patrick Collins, and he pulled that save off. It'll be interesting to see whether he can stay at that level, because it's fascinating during the round robin. Some lads will have a peak, and then they'll hit a bit of a trough, and then they'll have a bit of a peak again. The lads that win All-Stars generally are nominated for All-Stars are lads where the graph stays like this nearly the whole way through, or it's going up the whole way. But lads, you know yourself, you play matches week on week. You could play a 9 out of 10 this week. It could be a 6 out of 10 and whipped after 50 minutes the next week. Do you know what I mean? So Clare are going to need probably a couple of new faces to step up. Like, it's going to be hard for David Reedy or Duggan or a couple more to replicate those performances. Even going through the Clare performances, though, I think they needed the game. I think they needed a half under their belt. I'm going through, like, I was even just thinking about, you know, who were their best performers the last day. Duggan, Reedy, Kelly was good. I thought Adam Hogan was brilliant, and he set the tone physically. In that sense, he wasn't unbelievable, say, but like an Eibhear Quilligan maybe. So they do have plenty of room for improvement too.
Oh yeah, big time. And see, this is the beauty of the round robin and the whole thing of not being straight knockout anymore. That like, it does end up being the most consistent and best team that will win it, and that comes out. Like, so it's not just like, geez, oh, you know, we had 2 lads injured that day, or oh, we got hit with a sucker punch goal in the last second. We, you know, potentially we thought that year we could have won the All Ireland, but we're knocked out in the first round. Like, this kind of thing. That's the beauty of the round robin. Like, and why it's probably way harder as well to win an All-Star, because you have to play at about a level of 7 to 8 out of 10 for about 6-7 matches.
Remember when DJ was getting All-Star nominations or All-Stars, like for when Kilkenny were beating in like Leinster semi-finals and stuff like that?
Because this was the thing, it was like, because you had to then base the All-Stars probably, I suppose, on league and championship, whereas now it's solely championship. It's like basically provincial finals and then knockout. How do you do in the provincial finals and then All-Ireland semi-final and final? But yeah, it's just this is the kind of the pros and cons to everything, the advantages and disadvantages. Like, Clare know where they need to improve on and what they can tighten up and who can do better, and then Waterford still aren't sure. Like, they still aren't sure, because how could they be? They can kind of guess and prepare and hope to be right against Clare, but you just don't know until you know. And like, you know, we're talking about Cork's forwards, but then you listed out some of the Waterford forwards there. Like, you know, potentially, like, they have a choice, you know, for 6 forwards, they have a choice of about 8 or 9 lads that could start easily, like between like Hogan, Déise, Kevin Manny, Patrick Fitzgerald, Austin Gleeson, Mikey Kiley, Jamie Barron, Shane Bennett, Stephen Bennett, Bennett.
They just need, if 3 or 4 of them click,
yeah.
They're in serious shape.
The one thing is, though, they just don't have that lad that's 6'4" and can just say, puck it here, I'm getting it. You know what I mean? Like, we're Clare there, they have Shanahan and Duggan, and then even Fitzgerald as well can go up and they cause havoc, because you just can't get up to their height when they put the hurl up as well. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just that's one little thing. Mikey Kiley is a brilliant target man, but just probably
the thing about it is, Naoise, there, he's been playing centre back, wing back throughout the league before he got hurt. Like, so and I believe he played most of his underage hurling there. So maybe they leave him in defence. Probably not. I'd say when you've missed time, maybe it's more likely that they'll revert back to what he's been doing more prominently in recent years. How do you see this game going? It's a Clare win for me, probably by 3 or 4. It would be expecting an almighty battle, but I'd still be fancying Clare to win.
Yeah, probably because it's just there's nothing to my problem with this is there's nothing to base a Waterford win on. Like, I haven't seen anything from Waterford in Championship in way too long, where you're kind of going, this would be like this.
Now, last year was their best round robin by a mile, to be fair, and they were very close.
Yeah, and when you think of that too, they kind of threw it away by drawing, and then that's how Cork get out of Munster or whatever. We were just kind of going, Jesus. But anyway, they just need the grit, the fight, and be ready for a physical battle, because they definitely have the hurlers to win this game. But yeah, I just think Clare should probably have too much from. I just think Clare.
Yeah, I've said it once and I'll say it again. A lot of how Waterford get on I honestly think will depend on Mark Fitzgerald, and he could maybe like if Prunty's obviously only come back from a knock, he can slip back inside on Duggan as well. That'd be some battle of the big men there as well. But his performance will be huge as well. Yeah. When you name out the talent that Waterford have, if they can get it, and they have the potential to get it right, but as you say, maybe you just go on what you've seen a little bit more. And in fairness, Clare's record in the round robin is outstanding, and they've generally started slow and come into it gradually and gotten better and better round 2, 3, 4. So it's a Clare win for me as well. Naoise, no point in saying any different. We mentioned at the start of the show, it was a disappointing start to the Leinster Championship outside of fairness. Like the Kilkenny Galway game, like just on Galway, like where are they at the minute? Their 4 losses this year have all been by 12 points. There is no element of consistency whatsoever.
So I was on Spot the Dove, the podcast Osquailga there last week, and we were talking about this, and it's funny, before the championship started, people just kind of go they just throw a blanket over and go well, you'd expect Kilkenny and Galway to come out of Leinster, and then it's up to whoever, it's just this empty analysis of Leinster that people, even people from Leinster counties, just say. And you're kind of going, and I kept thinking this, and I said it on that podcast. He was like, what are the base in Galway coming out of Leinster on? What's that based on? They use 40 different players in the league. They obviously can't find the consistency. And Michael Verney now, look, maybe it's just the reality of, we don't have the players, we're trying to rebuild a new team. And judging on last Saturday, was it there against Kilkenny, bar Mannion and Fleming for a while there in patches, and Lee in patches as well. They're who else would you pick out? It was pretty chronic, just simple as that. They were slow, and they obviously have really good and skillful hurlers, but just slow and lethargic. And Kilkenny didn't even get out of third gear, I'd say, and they just looked comfortable for the whole game. There was maybe a couple of minutes where you kind of thought, Galway might make a match of this in the first half, and just the second half was just, you were counting down the clock to see when was it over, and Kilkenny are kind of emptying the bench and bringing on some of the younger lads to give them a bit of taste of championship. But God, yeah, you'd be if you're a Galway hurling fan, a supporter of Galway there, I texted one of the lads from Galway and I said, do Galway have to go up to Corrigan Park? Because if they do, they're in trouble. But just from a Galway point of view, it's unbelievably disappointed. But if you're Derek Ling, the Kilkenny management there, you must be delighted, because you beat Galway at home first round without even playing anywhere near what they could potentially play. And again, Mullen getting injured.
There's Naoise, he's played very little this year. He played their first challenge game and he went off injured. He played their second challenge game and he went off injured. And he played about 11 or 12 minutes the other day and went off injured. Now that is worrying.
It's a huge worry.
Not for here and now, but that's worrying for down the road, because I know he scored 7, I think was it last year, in the Leinster final off a bit of a break. But then he was kind of very quiet in the All-Ireland semi-final. Do you know what I mean? So you do need to have it in the legs. You need to have played 3, 4, 5, 6 games when it comes to the cut and thrust of it.
Yeah, no, you need that. You need that kind of porridge in the belly, that the fuel is there, that you did you have the work done. So it's different playing 4 or 5 matches, then getting injured and missing 2 and coming back. Then you never had a consistent run. You probably weren't doing the full pre-season fitness stuff, and then getting to match speed immediately. You might get 20 minutes where you're like, geez, he's flying here. Kind of kind of like Tommy Walsh in the All-Ireland final back in 2003, and they took him off.
Remember that?
Time,
Yeah.
Like he gets like 3 points from wing forward, but he had the busted ankle that took him off. Like, but just worrying from Kilkenny because they're really, and I think now, Fionn Mackesy did really well and all. Like he did, because he played far better than I was expecting him to play, just based on the league performances. But Kilkenny need John Donnelly, Mossy Keoghan, and Adrian Mullen playing as well as they can, because then that gives the like of, if Mackesy is playing, and especially Billy Ryan, because the attention goes to the other lads, and Billy Ryan is really, really dangerous. But again, I think I said this on this show even as well, really dangerous as a 5th or a 6th, not as the 2nd.
Yes.
He gets, I just often think he gets shut down too easily when it's only him and Owen Cody, or only him and Mossy Keoghan. He gets shut down too easily. But when you have to stop John Donnelly, and have to stop Owen Cody, and have to stop Adrian Mullen, well, then Billy Ryan is going to pick up probably a goal and a point. And then that's a lot of the times the difference maker, or because he's so fast and powerful, and he's like just boom, going for goals. So you have to foul him, or he creates something. So they need Kilkenny need Adrian Mullen.
Yeah, it's funny with Billy Ryan, you're 100% right, because they go from either picking up the 1st or 2nd best defender on the opposition team to maybe the 4th or 5th, and a lot of attention going elsewhere. And there's no point it's any different. But Mullen going off, Shane Murphy going off, TJ not playing, and probably out for the guts of 4 or 5 weeks. It's a very good win from a Kilkenny point of view. We won't focus we focus a small bit. They're playing Antrim this weekend up in Corrigan. Like, the chance of an upset there, with how kind of rude a health they're coming into it from a form point of view, you'd imagine is minimal enough, especially based on Antrim were beaten by 11 in the wind-up the other day. Started well, and I know there was an unbelievable piece of skill from James McDonagh, like a savage piece of skill from there to get a score at one stage and switching hands. But you'd say an upset's unlikely, even in the home of all upsets.
Yeah. You'd have to say, like, again, from an Antrim point of view, you'd be hoping, right, we need Adrian Mullen out and we need Cody out, and then they could probably deal with it and put up a real proper battle. But like, again, this is the beauty of the round robin, that Kilkenny are going to Belfast to play hurling. They're going into West Belfast to play hurling, like that the young lads all around West Belfast and St. John's and all the clubs all around there, that they now get to see like superstars playing just up the road. Loads of them can walk or look out there. If you ever see, at Corrigan Park, like, you look out your window and you can watch in the matches. Like, so huge. But as far as an upset, you'd be unbelievably shocked, really, to be honest, because I know, just talking to even like Keane, they're my brother and all, like, and they were saying that, like, in Antrim, like, and the lads on the panel and the squad and the lads at the game, they felt like they had actually a chance against Wexford there. And even during the game, and they just let it slip and let it go, and then couldn't get it back, and then Wexford tick on the points and whatever at the end, and just pull away like a good team does. So trying to regroup now and focus on trying to beat Kilkenny, do they do the same thing like they did last year, but they're at home, I suppose. Remember last year they got hammered by Kilkenny.
Annihilated.
And then they just go and beat Wexford, so it's like, but this time they're at home. So yeah, you'd have to say they probably put a lot of energy into that Wexford game, going down to Wexford thinking we have a chance here, maybe making this close. And I'd say they were sweating. Anyone that was keeping track on the Offaly and Dublin game, I'd say they were sweating looking at that result until the final, until the end of it, because like, that's really what they are targeting is the Offaly game. You would imagine, and maybe the Dublin game too. Now, judging by what I saw anyway between Dublin and Offaly.
Yeah, the Galway coming to Tullamore to play Offaly. I don't know if you saw, it was a cool little vignette, as we'd say in wrestling terminology, that Offaly GA put out about the last time they played Dublin in the championship before last Saturday, and been relegated, and then been relegated from the Joe McDonagh, and then been beaten by Down on penalties. And it was brilliant. It was like, this is where we were, how far we've fallen. And it was all like little newsletter articles. And then it was like, this is our first home game in the Leinster Championship in 7 years. Get your arse over to Tullamore and support us. But you would be, as much as we've been down on Galway there, you would be expecting a reaction from Galway, surely. And an interesting narrative to it as well is, and I was chatting to him after the game last Saturday, Johnny Kelly, I was like, Johnny, an interesting one for you. next weekend or whatever, your home county coming to Tullamore. He's like, sure, I'm an Offaly man now, that's it. I said, I've nailed my colours to the mast. I said, if my brother is playing for Galway, what matter? I'm here to win. And it was like, I love that, like real definitive. It's it's going to be difficult or whatever. He's like, no, I'm gone all in with Offaly now. Couple of things. I think there'll be a reaction from Galway. I wonder how much that would have taken out of Offaly last weekend, because they did tire late on and didn't get much off the bench. They used 18 players and didn't get much of a hop off the bench, Colin Spain aside. And even emotionally, mentally, I'm wondering how much they take out of them. But I would have said the same last year when they won the McDonagh and Cork came to town a week later. I said, these boys are spent, and they produced a sensational performance. So you never know. But I listen, Galway are one of those kind of propositions that I would never part money on them, because it's like Arsenal, Spurs, Galway hurling, probably Galway football as well.
Derry football is another one.
Yeah, never in any equation. But how do you see that game playing out?
Like that, you'd expect, right? And then realistically, the attitude that Galway should have going playing Offaly is that we need to bully these lads. We need to bully these fellas, because if they sit off and play against Offaly like they did against Kilkenny, I could definitely see Offaly beating them. Like if they allow Offaly to hurl and use their skill and use their vision and use their class and like their kind of freshness and openness and energy and all, like that comes with a load of young fellas that are really good hurlers. Like I could definitely see this thing going like downhill really fast for Galway, where the heads drop and they go, jeez, and they just can't get going. You know, one of them things where it's like they've no life and no heartbeat and no momentum, that they just can't get going. I could see it going that way. But you would think that there's enough leaders in the Galway team that have been around the block a few times that they say like, hey lads, look, last week was unacceptable. It was borderline pathetic. Like it was just unacceptable from a county and a team that's supposed to be and would still have players that you would think that should be aiming at far higher targets than that kind of a performance, that you'd be saying, we have a chance now to get this back against a team that might well allow us to hurl. So we need to be like fast, physical, organised, and when we get ahead, we bury these lads and welcome them to senior hurling. That's what you'd think that should be happening in the Galway dressing room. But look, who knows? They're just so inconsistent. They're just so inconsistent.
And that was the one thing Donoghue sorted in his first reign, and he sorted it quickly. If they were beaten them by a point in All-Ireland semi-final in 16 or whatever, it was really consistent. There was never big peaks and valleys, and that's as I said to you, the 4 games they've lost this year, they've lost by 12. If you lose by 1 or 2, you say something. But when you're losing by 12 in those games, it's not good. Now, the league would also suggest anytime they've been beaten handsomely that there's been a reaction the following week. I'd be amazed if David Burke and Conor Cooney, at least 2 of them don't come in to start. Probably the 3 of them, because you can talk what you like about transitions and all stuff like that, but at the end you want to win games as well, and I think that's crucial. The biggest game, or the juiciest game, Naoise, in Leinster is that Dublin Wexford game up in Parnell. Dublin have 2 home games to start up in Donecarney, which is like it is. It's a good, because they can have 4 points on the board against 2 teams that are going to be in or around them, you'd suggest. How do you see this going? It was a bit of the Lee Chin show last Saturday. He ended up with 16-4 from play. When he's on form like that, Wexford are going to be hard beaten. Rory O'Connor was chipping in as well. Conor Hearn was very good out around the middle of the park. Liam Ryan is getting back, and they've introduced a lot of new faces there. What do you reckon? It's been very, very little between them the last 5 times they've met in championship.
Yeah, and these are 2 of the teams I picked to go with Kilkenny to come out of Leinster, that they'd be in the top 3. So, just
you're looking for a draw, basically.
Yeah, no. I'm hoping Dublin win it and get out of Leinster and get to a Leinster final or something and start progressing this thing a bit quicker. From Dublin point of view, you have to be delighted with the bench. Like, we're talking about subs and importance of subs, like that Hetherington and Hayes come on. Hayes gets 1-1. Hetherington gets a point at the end there,
Hetherington.
Yeah, Hedjo, I just always call him. Sorry.
You're mixing his nickname into his actual real second name.
Yeah, I don't want to be using his nickname and be one of them lads. Oh, nickname fella. You know, so it's like, but like he's class. I've always loved watching him playing with Vincent. Like he's what, like I was talking with Oisin Langan about this as well. I was like, if he was in Kilkenny, he'd be an absolute hero because like he's an animal and he'd hurl in a phone box as well, and he's a brilliant ball winner. It's just that like whatever fitness wise and commitments, maybe like it's been up and down. But
I tell
like,
you something, Naoise, he came in the other day and didn't touch a ball for 15 minutes, but all of a sudden his positioning wise, he opened up a load of space for other lads. I was only chatting to Humphrey Keller about it after, and he just said, look at Heatherton, he came in there, he didn't touch the ball, but he opened up loads of things for everyone else with his position, and he did, to be fair, and he got his score in at the end as well.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. And then Ronan Hayes is funny like that too, where now the Offaly goal, or Ronan Hayes' goal, like if you're again coaching Offaly there, two lads jumping for one ball, and Ronan Hayes stay down the ground, gets the break, buries it, and you're going, lads, like literally if that doesn't happen, like the game we've won. Like, it's like just, I don't know, just coaching and learning and all this kind of stuff that you just experience. But
I don't know if you saw it, Naoise, as well. Dublin GA had the clip of Hayes' goal up, and I know you're big into the active hurl, aren't you? The active hurl. Kieran Burke had his hurl outstretched, and it looked like it was directly in line of where the ball was going, and it misses it ever so slightly. But as you say there, it was a bit of rookie defending before that, and there are things that you need to polish up at this level, realistically.
Yeah. Because Dublin do have, again, like kind of similar to Waterford, like we were saying, and similar to Cork, like their forwards, they do have probably for 6 positions, they probably have 8 lads that could rotate in and out there, and that should be, again, if you're around the scene and all, like you'd kind of go, okay, yeah, I could see that, and then 2 lads coming in, grand, okay, yeah, but I think defensively they really need to shore it up, and then you're coming up against Lee Chin and Rory O'Connor here, like they're far better than your average kind of hurler here now. They need to shore up.
Who picks up the 2 of them? Who picks up Chin?
I don't know is the answer. Like it just depends, I suppose, where he's lining up and all. Like, but I actually don't know who I would want on him. This is my problem with this is like I don't know who I would be putting on him if I was the manager. Now again, they're in there, they'll have a plan. Neil O'Callaghan will have the plan on that. But again, I'd go back even starting there. I wouldn't. I think I'd have Sean Brennan back in goal as well. I was surprised. I was surprised he wasn't starting now, I have to say, because I think to me over the last 4 or 5 years he's been very, very consistent. Maybe aside from maybe a stray puck out in the Leinster final last year that ended up in a goal, I think he's been very, very consistent. So that was a surprise move now to me. And I've good time for Eddie Gibbons because I remember seeing him even the COVID year playing under 20 against Offaly down on Borough. Yeah.
But I thought Brennan was established, but clearly not at the minute anyway.
Yeah, Sean is he's one of the best goalies in the country. Like he just is like. So I just think like there you go, boom, number 1. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with their matchups. Dublin's defense at the minute, like their backs. I wouldn't be surprised if Darragh Gray was on Lee Chin actually, right?
Be coming in from the cold.
Yeah, I know, but just size of them, just the matchups. A lot of Dublin's backs, if you ever look at them, and even when you see them on TV.
I don't know if Gray was listed last week even.
Was he not?
I don't think he was. I have the programme in my bag. I don't think he was, because he would have been in if he was, I'd say.
Yeah, you would think, but like, I don't know, just experienced all that kind of stuff as well. Like, and just when I was looking at the match there again on the screen, right, and I kind of thought this anytime I've seen them in person, the backs are all really small. Like, they're all around, like, my height, which is 5'9", like, so they're all around 5'9", 5'10", like there's nobody on it.
Crummy aside,
Crummy aside, like obviously, sorry. But where will Paddy Smith be? Like, will Crummy be just man marking Chin? I doubt it. Will Darragh Gray get to come in? I don't know. Maybe not. Like, it's a funny. Where will Conor Burke be? Will he be maybe asked to come back, and then somebody else does man mark Chin? Then
John Bellew will pick up Rory O'Connor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
I reckon. Yeah.
Again, like, it's just. I think there's where the difference will lie. Is the Dublin backs trying to stop the Wexford forwards? I think that's where the difference will lie.
Yeah. From a Wexford point of view, I wouldn't be I definitely wouldn't be just landing chin in on top of Crummy. I'd be maybe for a few minutes or whatever, but I'd be playing them everywhere else to make them uncomfortable. Probably have them on both wings. I'd probably have them inside. Could even have my corner. Like, I'm not being smart. If they look back at the Offaly video from last week, which I'm sure they will, they'll see how much joy Offaly got from high ball in. Sometimes now, I mean to say, the most agricultural of high ball. Like, literally, like if you're playing inside and it's just a straight ball down on top of you, that's not a great ball. But if you're playing and it's a diagonal ball into you, Offaly are actually getting joy off that lumped ball almost. So that would be a worry from a Dublin point of view, definitely.
And that's kind of what I'm referring to. It's like there's just that physical presence to stop lads coming in, because like just the scores that Offaly were getting, I wouldn't be, and I'm sure the management team aren't, but I wouldn't be happy with an awful lot of them from a Dublin point of view. Like, so
call it.
I think Wexford, there's a pep in their step, and I've liked Wexford. The way they finished their league, the way they kind of glided, went through, got the job done against Antrim, and I think they were definitely targeting this game coming up to Parnell Park. So that'll be another away win, is it? Yeah, geez.
And that wasn't the way it worked out last weekend. It was 2 draws, obviously, in Munster, and all home wins.
Yeah.
I'll just fly through another couple of quick games. Naoise, Joe McDonagh, Kildare against Westmeath. Kildare beaten by Kerry last week, and that'll be a sore one. Beaten by a point. Puts Kerry off to a great start. There's no point in saying any different, because they didn't have a great league. Westmeath were well beaten enough by Laois last week. Down, who I tipped to make the final beforehand, got their arses handed to them last weekend against Carlow. There's no point in saying any different. 6 goals, and their campaign, a lot of it will come down to this Laois game up in Ballycran. Laois were good last weekend. I don't know if you saw Mossy Keys' point there, was flying around on club, or lethal. He's so good. And remember Ross King, Messy Keys, that's how he describes him. He's just so skillful, in fairness. The other Joe McDonagh game is on the Sunday, I think. It is indeed, that's Kerry and Carlow. Listen, I think Carlow are cut above anything in the McDonagh at the minute. We won't chat too much about the McDonagh, but one game I do want to talk to you about was Derry's result over in London last weekend, because London gave Meath a fair trimming the first week, and now Meath won last weekend against Tyrone, and now everything's back even in the group again. Do you know what I mean? So that was a big result for Derry, because it's not simple to go to Ruislip, and that's a good London side as well.
Yeah. Because, and again, like, these are things like Derry now, as far as they're hurling and trying to progress. Like, you need to know, after being beaten, and I don't know how many Christy Ring finals, 2 at least anyway, in the last couple of years. It's just like, that is a big win. Great to get off the first game with a group, the first group game with a win in the round robin. But to go over there, it's a pain. Like, it just, no other way about it. Like, I had to fly over there, not to London, but for Warwickshire or somebody we were playing. It's a massive pain in the backside to go over and play. So that is a huge win to go away, especially away anywhere, but away literally to another country and win and come back, start the Christy Ring campaign off the way they wanted to, because they got a few very, very good results in the league as well, like beating Donegal and all, after Donegal had beaten Kerry. So hopefully Derry finally can get out of the Christy Ring now this year.
Naoise, I'll leave you on this one. Dublin's Fair City. Someone's asking, where's Mr. Stapleton, Pat Mulhall? Dublin's Fair City says, Stapleton is starting a new music career with the 2 Johnnies. They're now called the 3 Stooges.
The 3 clowns.
You love that one. Naoise, thanks very much.
Right.
We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the weekend's action. Mind yourself.
Good
stuff. Great to have Naoise on board there as always. There's obviously a big football weekend last weekend too, and delighted to be joined by Adam Moynihan, who's just about recovered from the game in the park last Saturday night. I'd say, Jesus, that wasn't a shock now. That was like cardiac arrest, I'd say, nearly.
I was never in doubt for a No, it was an unbelievable game. Jeez, I thought Kerry were beaten a couple of times in that match, and at the same time I thought Kerry were home and hose a couple of times as well. So geez, it was just phenomenal entertainment. I mean, I think some people, all right, look, I thought it'd be there. I think I said that last week that there'd be uncomfortable periods for Kerry, but I didn't think it'd be that uncomfortable for that long. Like it was just Cork were really good. I was very impressed by the way that they pressed Kerry, the way that how physical they were. Like they were really on their game in terms of their physicality. Like I think 4 Kerry players got head injuries at one stage or another. No, none of them were malicious or bad or anything like that. But it was just kind of a sign of how up for it Cork were. They were clattering into tackles. They were really up for it. So look, from a Kerry point of view, obviously delighted to get out of there, still standing. But it was a phenomenal game.
Just on that, from a Kerry point of view, the Paddy Clifford sending off changed the game. There's no point in saying any different. Kerry were in a good position at that stage.
Yeah, look, at that point, Paul Geaney had just scored a goal set up by Paddy Clifford, and they were 7 points clear at that stage. All right, you're thinking, look, there's about 20 minutes to go. Like, Kerry should be okay here. And Paddy was playing so well, to lose him to a red card was huge. But yeah, look, I think, like most people, like I don't see how it should have been a red card. I think it was an awkward tackle. I think it was a combination of kind of Matty Taylor's pace and change of direction that kind of caught him. He put the arm across, I think, tried to put it across the chest. It ended up being around the neck. It wasn't to the head as such. Obviously Taylor went down, and it was a high impact kind of thing. Like, you could understand how the ref might get caught up in that. But I think there's actually a bigger kind of discussion to be had around these kind of tackles now, because like most people would agree that wasn't a red card. There shouldn't have been a red card. He went to the linesman. The linesman said that there was contact to the head. Same for Sean Brady in extra time. For the Cork red card, the linesman said there was contact to the head and it was red, and that was never a red card.
How
either.
can you? This frustrates the life out of me. Unless you're 100% sure and you saw it, like, I don't know, like, they're huge decisions. Like, particularly the Brady red card. Cork realistically probably win the game if Brady stays on the pitch.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, I think Cork, I was really worried at that stage that, look, Kerry were struggling. Cork were having all the shots. They were just a bit wasteful, but. The Brady one definitely turned the game back in Kerry's favour that way. But at the same time, if the Clifford one doesn't happen, the game doesn't go to extra time. If you know what I mean. Yeah. So, like, I think, like, I read an article by Brian Gavin in the Examiner a couple of days ago, the former hurling referee, and he said that there was talk last year about the FRC trying to get in this rule that any contact to the head was a red card, and it didn't come in. It didn't go. It wasn't actually tabled at Congress at all. But now it appears it's kind of got in through the back door, because Brian Gavin was saying that the CCC or CCCC sent out a guideline to county boards last week only, or maybe the week before, saying that any head or tackle to the head would be a red, and anything around the neck would be a yellow, and that's for hurling and football. So I know from listening to you or watching you on the show, Verney, that it's been a big thing in hurling this season, that there's been several incidents of head-high tackles, supposedly head-high tackles in hurling, being punished by red cards when they didn't warrant red cards at all. Now, I'm worried that the referee in the Kerry versus Cork game was taking that to an extreme and saying, okay, geez, was that to the head? We've been told last week that we have to send fellas off for a tackle to the head. I'd be worried that, like, things are going well for football at the moment, but the last thing you want to see now is very soft red cards being dished out. Like, neither of those tackles were red cards, in my opinion, and I really hope that this isn't the start of a trend for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if it's an edict that they're passing down, like, it has to be put into law realistically. You can't just, and it can't be sprung on people. But listen, with the football, with the FRC and the rule changes, it seems like a lot of things seem to be sprung on referees and sprung on managers and sprung on players fairly haphazardly this year. That's definitely what it looks like anyway. Just one question from a Cork point of view. Like, it took them probably 20-25 minutes to get into the game. When they got into the game and maybe altered their approach, they were brilliant. Is this a one swallow just to make a summer job, or are we going to actually see this consistently from Cork? Because they're capable of being in definitely the top 8 or 10 if they're able to do this consistently. But that's been a problem. Like, remember, what was the score when Louth beat them last year? Was it something like ridiculously low, and was it 1-8 to 1-6 or something like that?
Yes,
or
really
something
low.
mad. Like, can they take their game to another level now, or was this just seeing the old enemy and rising at 10 or 15% for Kerry?
I think the problem for this Cork team for the last number of years has been they up their game for good teams, and they tend to lower their game against weaker opposition. Do you know what I mean? They seem to just. It's the occasion. They play to whatever the occasion is. If they played like that against a Division 2 team, sure, they'd get promoted, if you know what I mean. But, like, they don't seem to be able to match that intensity against the so-called weaker teams, or maybe teams around their own level. But, like, you saw the last day, like, the physicality they had, the power they have in midfield, the running capabilities they have from the half back line. Taylor, you've Driscoll coming forward, kicking 2-pointers. Maybe the one thing that they are lacking is forwards to put the ball over the bar. I know they've got
Stephen
Chris
Sherlock
Jones
scoring 16 points in a league game a couple of weeks ago, and you're kind of like, geez, imagine if he's out there to come in, like.
Exactly, like going down the stretch there in extra time when they needed that 2-pointer after Joe O'Connor's like unbelievable goal. They had shooters on the pitch, but like if the more options the better, you know what I mean. Obviously, it ended up being Colin Manny taking the 2 shots, and he was unlucky that he missed them. But a fresh Sherlock coming on there, like it was just completely in his wheelhouse to do that. But yeah, look, I think they've got loads of potential. And I said this earlier in the year as well. I think they can still like they can come back in the championship and show they could do something. But yeah, I think that it's about not just bringing that intensity and that kind of high level performance when a good team's put in front of them. It's about doing it when you're playing against every team, and you have to do it. You can't turn it on and off because that's not going to get you anywhere.
I do think, and we move on to another game now, but I do think Kerry having that sort of test and having to play the last 15, 20 minutes or whatever without one of their best players, I think that's key for them, and it's probably a test they haven't had for like the whole duration of a game and the whole duration of extra time. They haven't had that in Munster in a long time. But just look ahead to this weekend, Adam. Like Tyrone and Armagh to me is like by far and away the marquee game. Armagh obviously got their hands on Sam Maguire last year. I'm sure getting their hands on the Anglo-Celt is maybe not number one, but it's definitely a close number two, I'd imagine, after the heartbreak of recent years. Tyrone have the memories of, you know, in early February there when Armagh absolutely kicked them off the field in that league game. I wasn't impressed with them against Cavan at all. How do you see that game going? It's a game that was flagged from well out that this is going to be a big game, and it's been built as such. It's an intriguing game.
Yeah, this could be a great one, and the reason why it's so intriguing is that like we don't really know where either team is. We don't really know where Armagh are, and we don't really know where Tyrone are either. So like this game is a massive opportunity for both of them. This could be a launch pad for their whole season, and by the same token, they could put the other team back in their arse for a couple of months. Yeah. Like if Tyrone win this, I know that the odds are quite even. I think Tyrone are maybe 10-11, something like that.
Everest was like favourites, yeah.
So like Armagh will be using that as fuel. They're saying like we're all Ireland champions, like there's no way we should be underdogs going into a semi-final in our own province. But they are missing players. Like obviously we know about Rian O'Neill, who's a massive player for them, isn't going to be available this year. Like I'm just going through it there. Like they have, who do they have? Connolly, Paddy Burns, Ben Creeley, Niall Grimley. Like the two boys were their midfielders last year. Turbot, like. There's just loads of guys there who they're missing, and that's a big ask for any team to replace those guys. Now we don't know who might be available this weekend, but from Tyrone's point of view, like they have so many weapons to kind of take advantage of the new game. I think that they're 9-1 for the All Ireland. I think they're probably the best outside bet outside of maybe the four teams ahead of them. I really think that they have all the tools. Hopefully from their point of view, they can get Derek Canavan back in. He missed the last game, and I think it's going to be close for him if they can. It's a huge boost.
They won't win without him, Adam.
Oh, they won't on this weekend?
Yeah, no, they won't. They won't. Like he'll have to come in for like a half an hour, 20-minute cameo and light it up, but they won't. I can't see them beating Armagh if he doesn't start.
Yeah, well, there's no denying he's a huge player for them. Like he kind of sews everything together for them inside the full forward line. But yeah, look, I think that like from Tyrone's point of view, they do have a lot of weapons. Like if you start from like the key components of the game, the current game are kickouts, like winning balls in midfield, attacking at pace from the half back line, and then having the forwards obviously to put the ball over the bar. Like they've got one of the best keepers in Morgan. They have like the likes of McKernan, who's like been shooting the lights out all year. Like he's a brilliant attacking half back. They've got two absolute beanpoles in midfield who can fetch balls all day for you. And then look, if they have Canavan back in, they've got McCurry, McShane's back in as well. They have guys up there. Plus, throw into the mix Kieran McGeer, who's playing his best football in 4 years, probably when he was footballer of the year. So I just think they've got a lot going for them. If I had to put my neck on the line, like I'd be tipping Tyrone this weekend.
Yeah, just on something you mentioned earlier there, I think if Tyrone don't win, I think it would be like, obviously if it's an extra time defeat or they're defeated by a point, that's different. But if Armagh were to win by 3 or 4 or something like that, I think that would set Tyrone back. I don't think it would set Armagh back as much. Well, I think Armagh will get the win at the weekend. But it is a fascinating game, and it is very, very, very hard to call. Like from a betting point of view, to be honest, you don't make any call until 10 minutes before the start, and you see whether D. Canavan is playing. And if he is playing, you're maybe swayed in that direction a bit more. And same from a Armagh point of view, talking Niall Grimley being back as well, which would be a big boost for them to have back as well. Of the other games, I think this. I was chatting to Michael Reynolds yesterday, the Leinster GA Chief Executive Officer. It's looking like about 20,000 between the two venues, 10 to 12 for Dublin and Meath, and then 6 to 8 for Louth and Kildare in Tullamore. That's less than the 21,957 I think that was in Croke Park last year for the double header. It's the first time it's been taken out of Croke Park in 20 years. It's fair to say the appetite really isn't there at the minute for it, but I do think atmospherically both games will improve massively from being in provincial venues. And even if Dublin and Meath is tight at certain stages, there'll be a bit of noise. There'll be, coming from the stands, and you'll be able to feel it a bit more. I think Louth and Kildare is going to be tight, and that will definitely benefit from being in Tullamore. How do you see these two games going? I think it's Dublin -7, which is one of their lowest handicaps it's been in a long, long time in Leinster. Is there any fear of 2010? Where Meath hit them for 5 goals, and ended up, that's the last time they were beaten in Leinster, obviously, or is that just fanciful thinking based on one result and one performance against Wicklow?
No, look, to be honest, I couldn't see it. I know Dublin aren't a finished article at the moment. I think they're still kind of working things out. I mean, I think they played 4 goalkeepers already this season, which is a strange one. Yeah, it's really weird. I'd say that's very rarely happened at that level. But no, look, I think Dublin will be too strong for Meath. In the other one, Kildare versus Louth, like there are things at stake in that game. Obviously, not just the final, but it's hard to, like, Louth are obviously missing. Like, they're missing Mulroy. I know he might be.
Talk of him being back in the mix anyway, or close.
Yeah, well, look, sure, if he's there, I mean, that's a huge boost to them. That fella kicked 10 points in the game. Do you know what I mean? So that'll obviously shorten Louth's odds as if he's available. Craig Lennon as well came on in the last game, I believe. They're all stars, so that's like 2. If they have those 2 boys back in, obviously it's going to be radically different for them. So I would be picking Louth in that game. And as for Dublin, whether or not they cover the spread, I'd say it'd be thereabouts. I know that's an easy thing to say because the bookies are nearly always right about these kinds of things, but I wouldn't be worried about Dublin in that game. No disrespect to me, but I just think that they're still a level above everyone else in Leinster.
Just on, like I was saying about, possible 2010 happening again. I think without Jordan Morris, like they need all their gunners up front to be able to take down Dublin. You're probably going to have to hit 3 or 4 goals, or something kind of freakish is probably going to have to happen. I'd imagine Cluxton, if fit, will come back in as well. One game we didn't mention there, Donegal obviously had that win over Monaghan last weekend. We've talked about hooter problems before, and there were definitely some issues in close at the weekend, but Down, like, really, like, were put to the pin or the collar to get over the line against Fermanagh. Donegal were probably, I wouldn't say put to the pin or the collar, but they got the result against Monaghan. Obviously, anything but a Donegal win would be a surprise there. And whatever chance of McGuinness not knowing much about the opposition, he was obviously involved even briefly with Down a couple of years ago, so he'll know them well. And this is, the third of a possible 4 games in Ulster to get their hands on the Anglo-Celt again. You'd be surprised with anything other than a 5 or 6 point Donegal win at the minimum, you'd imagine.
I would say at the minimum. I was watching the Donegal man again the weekend. They're very impressive. They're very impressive in certain areas of the game. Obviously, their kicking their shooting accuracy is it's a joy to behold. Like, they're Kieran Thompson and Peter Morgan. These guys, they're so accurate. Like, you've got guys like Gallen and Brennan coming off the bench. Like, they've got so many fellas who can put the ball over the bar. Obviously, O'Brien is playing great football as well. Michael Murphy thrown into the mix. Like, they're brilliant at that side of the game, and they attack at pace. It's going the other way, and it's not that they're not good at it. They are good at it, but just in terms of spectacle, I didn't really enjoy that man in Donegal game as much as I might have thought I was going to. And it's mainly because Donegal sat in very deep and let Monaghan have the ball.
They're still defending like it's 15 on 15 in open play, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting. And look, it's working for them. You can't criticize them and say it's not working, but you wonder if it'll still work against, down the line, maybe in the semi-final of All-Ireland against the Galway or someone like that who can kick from outside. And not saying Monaghan can't, but obviously Galway are the best at it at the moment. But it's just from a spectacle point of view. And look, we're getting spoiled already with the football. It's only been 3 months of good football, and we're already saying, we don't want to see any lateral passing. But I thought there was a lot of lateral stuff in that game. But normally it's the Ulster Championship that's keeping us entertained. But I think the Munster Football Championship is where it's at now, I'd say.
Obviously, Clare had a good win at the weekend as well against Tipperary. And there's been a theme in these games where it's been even like Dublin against Wicklow, Division 1 and 4, Clare against Tipperary, high Division 3 against maybe mid-table Division 4. There hasn't been really any turkey shoots, like Leitrim against Mayo last weekend. Not been smart. I did not see that even remotely coming, because you're seeing that everything that happened in Leitrim, they didn't play a league game earlier on. Stephen Porter was doing media left, right and centre, and people were probably only waiting to jump on top of him when they conceded, 3-27 or something like that to 12 points. But they were brilliant at the weekend. They set up quite compact, kicked some great long rangers. No one is expecting that type of a game. And that's been a kind of a common theme. The underdogs have been a lot closer, and they're getting a lot more scores on the board, obviously, with the 2-pointer being in addition to that as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We were worrying maybe, or some people were worrying before the rules came in, that the 2-pointers were going to lead to bigger margins between the top teams and the lower ranked teams, because you'd imagine that the better teams have the better shooters and they'd be more capable of taking advantage of the arc. But I think what we're seeing in a lot of cases is quite interesting, is that the weaker teams are actually staying in touch by scoring 2-pointers. So they might, I know we saw the example of Mayo against Sligo a few weeks ago, where Mayo were up 10 points. The next thing, Sligo get 2-pointers, and it's like, Jesus, there's only 6 points in it now, and we get a goal, whatever. And they did get the goal in the end. But I think, I don't know, maybe the game is just still sort of settling down, and we're not really fully seeing teams grasp the kind of ramifications of everything yet. But definitely, if the weaker teams are, I'd be focusing on the 2-pointers if I were them. The evidence is there to say that the opportunities are going to present themselves no matter who you're playing against. Definitely
midfield and the 2-pointers. If you can get a strong midfield and you have 2 to 3 players that are capable of kicking 2-pointers, you could be in any game.
100%, absolutely 100%. Those are the 2 biggest weapons you can have at the moment. Now, you can flip that and say Kerry aren't even going for 2-pointers, which is unusual in itself. But I think they'll have to kind of work on that before the business end of the season comes about. But yeah, look, the opportunity is going to be there. And especially if you're working on it at this early stage of things, defenses are still getting the grips about how to deal with them. Do we drop off and block off the goal? Do we step up and pressurize the kind of outer arc? But while that's happening, there's an opportunity there for teams to say, right, well, we're going to focus in on this. We're going to score as many 2-pointers as we can. We're going to keep shooting. We're going to work on set plays, screens, getting our shooters into position, like a drop goal in a rugby. And you might as well go for it, because look, these teams, as we keep saying, they're probably going to lose these games, regardless, Division 1 versus Division 4. You might as well go and have a bit of crack and shoot the 2-pointers, and you never know, you can make a game going down the stretch,
Totally. And even when Leitrim were putting over some 2-pointers and some bombs and that, and particularly on home soil, there's a great buzz around the place. And it actually did remind me a lot of when Porter was actually coach with Carlow, and they played Dublin in one of the first Sky Sports games under Turlock, and they parked the bus to a point. But Paul Broderick was kicking long range frees, and it's like every time they got free, you think, yes, he could score here. And they kept themselves in a game that no one gave them any hope to be in. Just a couple of quick comments before we go. Tyrone Speeder says, Jim Gavin should get a Goshka Award for saving Gaelic football's life. First time in years I'm excited about football now. I'd have to agree to a point. In fairness, it's just so much easier to watch now. And even in games that you think are going to be turkey shoots, you think that the underdog has a big chance. Dublin's Fair City says, Zhao Zintong for the Crucible. Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of him. He's coming back from a ban that he was out again for a couple of years, but a big fan of that. That's the only other thing that would take my attention at the minute away from the GA is the Crucible. I don't know if you've ever been there, Adam. But if you're a snooker man at all, it is absolute heaven as regards sporting venues. It's unbelievable. It's also one of the most relaxing places on earth. It's so quiet. I usually go for a little snooze there anytime I'm there as well, because you can't help it. You're concentrating on the table, and then you're like just kind of zone off for a couple of seconds, and then you're back in, and it's probably still the same frame and the same kind of ball that they're still on nearly as well. But another belter of a weekend of action coming up. Hopefully we get something similar to Cork and Kerry, because that really ignited, I think, the football championship, and definitely the Munster football championship last weekend. But we'll be back again next week. Adam, thanks a million for joining us, and big thanks again to our sponsors, Lotterland. We'll be back after the weekend to digest all the action and preview next week's games. Cheers.